On today's video, I am going to show you how to make an amigurumi dog bone for a dog toy. It's really fun. It goes pretty quickly, and the end result is a durable little toy that your dog will have hours of fun playing with. So grab your hook and yarn, let's dig right in. I'm Lavina Perry. This is Solo Stitching. Let's stitch. I have been wanting to do some more amigurumi, and there's a temporary shortage of little babies in my family that I like to make stuff for. So I went on a search for things I can make for my dogs. And I found these adorable little dog bones. I'm going to put the link down below. It is from Dreamee Crochet. She does have the pattern listed for free on her website, so you can find that link down in the description below. I'm just going to be showing you how to do some of the things that are listed in the pattern. So I'm just going to walk you through it, and then at the end, my dogs are going to have a cute little amigurumi dog bone to chew on. So to get started, I am using a size C 2.5 millimeter hook. You can see it's just a little tiny one. And I am using a 100% cotton size 4 or just a medium weight yarn. Now the pattern does call for a lighter weight yarn. You're welcome to use that. I prefer to use the thicker yarn with the tinier needle. It's going to be very, very tightly wound, and it's going to be better for my little dogs as far as durability to have that thicker yarn. I think that a thin yarn is going to be too easy to bite through with their teeth. Also, this pattern is listed in 2 sizes. I'm going to be making the smaller size because I just have little Yorkies and they don't need a giant bone, just a little one. So we're going to start with a magic ring. If you need instructions on a magic ring, I will post the link to my video right up here for you. We are going to single crochet 6 times into the magic circle. All right, and then we are going to close our magic circle. And we are going to do 2 single crochets into each stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and place a stitch marker. Amigurumi is one of those things that you just get in the habit of using stitch markers every time because it is really easy to lose your place. So there's 2 stitches in that first stitch. So we're going to continue around working 2 single crochets into each of the stitches. And as you can see, they're very tiny. They're very close together. There is absolutely no gaps in these stitches. And it's going to be very tightly woven. And the thicker yarn is going to make it more durable for little dog teeth that like to chew on things. And I went with 100% cotton rather than an acrylic because if they do end up getting it in their mouth, the cotton is going to be, I wouldn't say digestible, but more digestible than an acrylic yarn that could end up causing them to have problems. And I do try to keep an eye on my dogs anytime they have a stuffed animal that they chew on anyway, because I just don't want them getting like the stuffing and things to eat those. With little tiny dogs, it just takes something very small to end up causing them to have real big problems. Okay, so I am done with my 2 stitches in each stitch to increase to 12. So I'm going to do a quick count. We are at 12, and now I am going to single crochet in the next stitch. And rather than having where I do a chain, or to do a slip stitch and then a chain to attach each row, which is going to, even when you do the invisible increase. And I don't mind doing that for certain things on a limited basis, but what I have discovered in my years of doing amigurumi is that if you just continuously crochet, it has a better, more uniform look than if you're attaching with a slip stitch and then doing a chain. Even if you're doing the invisible one, it still will leave a mark and you will be able to see the seam clear up the side of whatever it is that you're making. Now that being said, there are times when you need to do that. This is not one of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and single crochet into that first stitch, and I'm going to mark it because that's the only way I'm going to know where the beginning is. All right, and now I'm going to do an increase stitch in the next stitch. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets, and then I'm going to single crochet in the next, and I'm going to repeat that pattern to the end. So 1 stitch and then an increase. 1 and then an increase. Okay. So I have 18 stitches in this row, and we are ready to move on to the next row, which is going to be row 4. So I'm going to single crochet into the first stitch, place my marker, and then I'm going to do an increase in the next stitch. So I'm going to single crochet 2, and then I'm going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. And I'm going to do an increase, which is 2 single crochets into 1 stitch, and then single crochet in each of the next 2. And I'm going to repeat that process where I'm going to single crochet in 2 stitches, and then I'm going to do an increase. And I'm going to repeat that all the way to the end of the row. And then we're going to end with a single crochet in the last stitch. Okay, so we are ready to move on to rounds 5 and 6, which are just going to be a single crochet in each stitch around. So no increases on row 5. And this is going to start giving us the curve that we're looking for. There's a row 6, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick count just to make sure that I have not missed any increases along the way or skipped any stitches. So you should still have 24 stitches, and we are done with this first part. So we are going to fasten this off. So I can see where I left off here. If you need to, you can go ahead and put a marker in that stitch right there, just so that you remember where it is that you left off, all right, and where that began. So as a side thought before we move on. All right, so now we're gonna do the second cup and we're gonna make it exactly the same way. So we're basically just starting over. So again, with the magic circle, we're going to do 6 single crochets into the magic circle. Okay. Tighten that down. We're going to do 2 single crochets in this first stitch. This is our first stitch. All right, and then we'll continue to work 2 all the way around. So we have our 12 stitches in this row. So now we are going to single crochet in the first stitch, and then do an increase in the next. Single crochet, increase in the next, and repeat that pattern all the way around. All right, so we have 18 stitches in that row. The next row, we are going to do 1 single crochet, and then we're going to do an increase in the next. Place my stitch marker back in here in the first stitch. Okay. And now we're going to single crochet in the next 2, and then increase. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. So we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase. And then we're going to single crochet in the last stitch. We have 24 stitches in this row, so go ahead and do a count. Make sure that you have gotten all of your increases. And now we do rows 5 and 6, which are just a single crochet around, no increases. There we go, the end of row 6. So we are going to place a stitch marker at stitch 13. We're not going to cut this yarn off though, we're going to leave that there. But I'm going to do a different colored stitch marker so that I know this is not the beginning of my row. This is the mid-row marker. All right, so on row 6 that I just did, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's row or stitch 13. So I'm going to make a little mark right there. Okay, we are going to come back to our first cup now. This is where we're going to join them together. This can get a little bit tricky. Don't let it get you down. All right, so we're going to continue where we left off. Okay, so we have our hook in cup 2. Now I have my stitch marker placed at stitch 13 on row 6. We're going to start row 7 And we're only going to work 12 stitches of row 7. Okay, so we have 1, all right, there's 12. So you can see we butted right up against our stitch marker in stitch 13. We're going to connect cup 2 to cup 1. All right, so if you will remember that we finished this one off, this is where we left it. So now we're going to insert our hook into this first stitch. All we're going to do here, this gets a little confusing. So we're already here. We're just going to start crocheting in this one as if we never stopped crocheting in this one. So we're just going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, just as if we were just continuing on a single crochet in the other row. Okay, so there I've pulled up my loop, and now I'm doing a single crochet. There we go. And I'm going to continue in the next 23. So we'll have a total of 24. So I will have stopped crocheting in the very last stitch of cup 1. There we go. Okay. That's what we look like. See, we're just holding on by that one stitch right there. Now we're going to insert our hook back into the second cup, into the stitch with the marker in it, and then we're going to just single crochet into that stitch. There we go. Okay. So essentially how we have attached these is that stitch 1 of cup 1 is attached to stitch 12 of cup 2. So you can see there's stitch 1 over here of cup 2. So that's how they look now. We are going to single crochet in the next 11 stitches. All right, so we have now completed row 7, and it ends up going all the way around both cups. There we go. Okay, so now both the cups are joined, and we are going to continue crocheting in a continuous round. Okay, so there might be a little gap right here, but don't worry about it. We're going to sew that together later. So just carry on as if it's not there right now. So we are going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then we're going to start with our decreases. All right, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And we're going to put our stitch marker back in stitch 1. And then we're going to do an invisible decrease. All right, so we're going to go insert in through just the front loop, pick up a loop, insert through the whole loop of the next stitch. So we have 3, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. And it pulls it together so it looks like 2 stitches side by side. That other stitch sort of just disappears in the middle there. All right, so we are going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches, and then we're going to do another decrease. There's 6. We're going to do our invisible decrease. We're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches, and then we'll do another decrease. We're going to do our decrease. There's 6 single crochets. Do our decrease. There's 6 single crochets. Go ahead and do our decrease as if it was just normal stitches. We're not going to give any consideration to being in the middle of that connection. Now we're going to single crochet in the last 3 stitches, and we should end with 42 stitches all the way around. So go ahead and count, make sure that you have the correct number of stitches. In row 9, we're going to do 5 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. We're going to do that 6 times. And we will end with an invisible decrease. And that is the end of row 9. You should have 36 stitches all the way around. So go ahead and count. Make sure that you did not miss any of your decreases or skip any stitches. Now at the end of row 9, this is where we will go ahead and close that gap that is in between the 2 legs of the bone. And let's grab a needle, and we're just going to use the tail of the yarn here, right there. And I'm just going to go in under the stitches and just pull them together. Because you're not even going to know that this was there. So right in that gap, see? That's right where I pulled it. You can look. That's the stitch right there. And I'm going to go ahead and just do one more through there, just to make sure it's nice and sturdy. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of a knot. So pull this out. Don't get confused by all your many tails of yarn here. And then I'm going to go through the loop that I left right there. And I mean, I can't imagine why you would ever be confused with all those hanging around. Okay, and then I'm going to go through one more time just to make sure that it is knotted. So right through the loop that I just tied. Maybe not. That's my yarn. And if you wanted to leave a little bit of a longer tail, you could. It's not a lot of sewing, so I just left a little bit of a tail there. We're going to pull that through, and then I'm going to go right back through that loop. And so it's going to turn my one knot into a double knot there, and I'm just going to tuck that in right down in here, because that's where it's going to live. And don't bother like weaving those in or anything on amigurumi. If you want to, you can do that. I will not be. I just tuck them in, and then when I stuff it, you never know that those ends are even there. There we go. All right. So now for row 10, we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to do an invisible decrease. There's 1 and 2. We'll do our decrease right here in the next 2. So just through that front loop, well, another loop, yarn over through all 3. Now we're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches, do an invisible decrease, and repeat that until we get to the last 2 stitches. Okay, and now we're going to single crochet in the last 2 stitches. Now the reason why she has them separated out that way, it keeps your increases and decreases from being in the same spot every time, which just gives us a more invisible flow to the increasing and decreasing. So it just will like seamlessly get bigger and then seamlessly get smaller, and you can't identify any sort of a pattern in like, okay, well, here's her increases and she increased all the way up or decreased all the way down. So it's actually a really good practice to be in if you're going to start designing amigurumi. And now for row 11, we're just going to single crochet in each stitch around. Should have, I did not say at the end of the last row, you should have 30 stitches. Go ahead and do your count. Make sure that you actually do have 30. Keeping accurate stitch counts helps your project to be shaped the way that it's supposed to. The increasing and the decreasing is what creates the shape. So if you have different counts, you're going to have a different shape. That's the end of row 11. For row 12, we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then we're going to do an invisible decrease. And you're going to repeat that a total of 6 times. And that's our last decrease for row 12. And in row, okay, so now you should have 24. Go ahead and do your count. Make sure that you got all of your decreases. And now in row 13, we're going to single crochet around, no decreases. Alright, that is the end of row 12. Oh, sorry, the end of row 13. There we go. So that was just a single crochet around. You should still have 24 stitches. For row 14, we are going to single crochet in the next stitch, and then we're going to do a decrease. So a single crochet, and then we're going to do a decrease, an invisible decrease. We're going to put our marker back in stitch 1. Now we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches and do an invisible decrease, and we're going to repeat that a total of 5 times. So 2 single crochets and then a invisible decrease. Okay. So we're going to single crochet into the last stitch, and you should have a total of 18 stitches. So we are going to start stuffing the bone now. So we've got to get the stuffing pushed down inside, and then this will be stuffed gradually as we go along. So if we tried to go back and from one end of the bone and try to stuff filling clear down to this end, it would be too hard to get it all in there. So this is going to be gradually filled, and we're going to start with just the end right here. So we just want a little ball of filling. We're just gonna push it on down on one side and then get like a similar size to go down on the other side. Go, and then I'm just gonna stick this right in here. I will say you want this to be stiff enough that it's not gonna lose its shape and get ruined. Or if it's a little stiffer, it actually makes it a little more hardy, because it's a little more challenging for them to get their teeth in there if this is a little firmer than if it is too squishy. So, and it just holds its shape better. So I'm just gonna throw some extra stuffing in there. You don't want so much that it actually like enlarges this and makes it all misshapen and larger than it was designed to be. Just enough so that it's fairly firm. And will hold its shape. And I mean, every amigurumi project is a little bit different, so there's some that you don't want them to be as stiff as others, but for this one, I feel like it needs to be pretty stiffly filled. Okay, we are to rows 15 through 18, and we are just going to single crochet around. So we've gotten as small as we're gonna go. This is gonna be the shaft of the bone, and we want to make a little bit of a cuff before the color change. So 15 through 18 is just 4 rounds of single crochet, and then we get to switch our yarn color. And make sure you are continuing to use that stitch marker, even though we're not doing anything to delineate the beginning of the row. You don't want to lose where the beginning of the row is. It's very important to keep track of that for building the other end of the bone. All right, we have completed rows 15 through 18. So you can see there's just a little cuff on this dog bone shoe toy that we're creating. So now we're going to change our yarn to a color, a different color. So I'm just doing this blue and white that complements this. You can make this as bright and as bold as you like. You can do it in stripes if you want to. Let's do a color change. So for an invisible color change, you just insert your hook and pull up a loop, and then you put the new color over the hook and you just pull through all 2 and complete the single crochet. And there you go. Your color is changed. Now, since we're doing the amigurumi with a continuous, and we're not doing a slip stitch into it and all of that, it will be a little bit different. You will be able to see where the color changes. It won't be 100% invisible. That is the technique that you would use for an invisible color change. So we are going to keep single crocheting. So now that we've done our color change, now we have the next 12 rows, 19 through 30, that we are going to work in our new color. I just did another stitch there to get everything real stable here. And rather than crocheting this in, since it's amigurumi, I'm just going to tuck those right down in there. And then I'm going to keep crocheting. And we should put a stitch marker right here. There we go. Keep our first stitch marked. So this is row 19. And we're going to work this second color through row 30. And you still should have 18 stitches in your row. So when you're done with your 12 rows, you have finished row 30. I will meet you back here and we are going to change yarn colors again. I have only worked through row 28, not row 30, because I don't want my bone to be as long as what the pattern calls for. If you're working the pattern as it is written, you would go through row 30 before you move on to the next step. So we are going to proceed as if I am working row 30. So we would be moving on to row 31 through 34, which are going to be a color change. So let me actually back this out to the last stitch so we can do our color change in the last stitch here. We are changing back to our original color, just this light blue, and we will just go ahead and pull that through, and then we'll tighten this up and start row 31 with our new blue right here. I'm going to go ahead and do one single crochet. There we go. I'm going to mark that first stitch. And I'm going to trim this off. I'm going to stuff both of these down inside, and then I'm going to add a little bit of stuffing. So you can see like our stuffing is clear down inside of there. So we're going to go ahead and fill that up. You can add a squeaker to this project as well. So if your dog likes a squeaker, I find with my dog that a squeaker just like stimulates to want to actually like tear it apart to get the squeaker so that it will stop squeaking. So I do not want to add a squeaker to this project for that reason, because I don't actually want this to get ripped apart. A bit of a gap here for some reason. Stuff that down in there. Try and fill in that gap. There we go. Feels nice and solid now. So we're going to go ahead and work rows 31 through 34. We are on row 31. And this is just the other side of this little cuff right here that we'll be working right here. So I have row 34 is finished, and you can see our little, this is what the completed shaft will look like. And now we're ready to start the other end of the bone. So we're going to start doing our increases to start growing it this way in preparation to finish it off. So let's continue. Row 35, we're gonna do a single crochet, and then we're gonna do an increase. We're gonna do 2 single crochets in the same spot. So we're gonna go and 2. I'm gonna go ahead and put my marker back in stitch 1. There we go. And now we're gonna do a single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then an increase. And we're gonna repeat that all the way around. And then we are going to single crochet into the last stitch. And this will put us at 24 stitches in row 35, okay? Now in row 36, we are going to single crochet around in each stitch. We will still have 24 stitches. Okay, we are finished with row 36. Moving on to row 37, you're going to single crochet in the next 3 and then do an increase and repeat that around a total of 6 times, and you'll be moving up to 30 stitches. Go ahead and make sure that you're still at 24. That will help you make sure that you're getting to 30 with your 6 increases. Still at 24, so I am ready to move on to row 37, where I'm going to do single crochets in the next 3 stitches. And then I'm going to do an increase. And I'm going to repeat that all the way to the end of the round. We are on our last repeat, and we're going to do our last increase in this last stitch. That should bring us up to 30 stitches at the end of row 37. Go ahead and do a count. Make sure you're at 30. We're going to move on to row 38. And this we're just going to single crochet around, so you will remain at 30 stitches by the end of row 30. I'm sorry, the end of row 38. Right, we are at the end of row 38. You should have 30 single crochets. I'm going to go ahead and do a count because we are getting ready for 3 consecutive rows of doing increases. So let's make sure we are at the right number of stitches going into that. I am right at 30. So I am ready to move on to row 39. We are going to do a single crochet in the first 2 stitches. We are going to do an increase, and then we are going to single crochet in 4 and then an increase. And we're going to repeat that. Last increase, and then we're going to work a single crochet in the last 2 stitches. And we are ready to move on. For row 40, we are going to single crochet in the first 5 stitches and then do an increase. And we are going to repeat that a total of 6 times. So make sure that you have 36 stitches at the end of row 39. So it's kind of what your project should look like. And then we're going to move to row 40. We are going to single crochet in the first and then increase and repeat that all the way to the end of the round. And our last increase in the last stitch, we should have a total of 42 stitches, and this is what we should look like right at the end of row 40. So I'm going to go ahead and count, make sure that I got all of my increases. I have 42 stitches. I am ready to move on to row 41. For row 41, we're going to single crochet in the first 3 stitches. And then we're going to do an increase. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. And we're going to do an increase. We're going to repeat that 4 more times. So you should single crochet 6 and, single crochet 6 and then do an increase 4 more times. All right, we've completed our last increase. Now we have 3 stitches left. We are going to single crochet in the last 3 stitches. And we should have 48 stitches at the end of this row. Go ahead and do a count, and then we are going to move on to the next row. This is what it should look like. Okay, so it looks like a funnel that we've created here. I am right at 48 stitches. I am ready to move on to the next row. So for row 42, we are going to single crochet in each stitch around. We will still have 48 stitches, no increases on this row. All right, we have finished row 48. Row 42 with 48 stitches. It's mixed up. All right, so this is what you're gonna be looking like. We are at the point now where we are going to be splitting this into 2 so that we can work the remaining ends of the bone. So you can see where you're at. We are on the home stretch. So let's go ahead and split row 42 into 2 rounds. So each round is going to have 24 stitches, okay? So then you're gonna finish crocheting 1, and then you're gonna finish crocheting the other one separately. So we're gonna put in 3 stitch markers into row 42. So row 42 is the one that we just finished. So we want to put a stitch marker into stitch 22. So this is stitch 1. We're going to count around to row 22 or to stitch 22. And understanding the instructions on this can get a little complicated. So we're going to walk through it together. And now we are going to mark in stitch 46. So we're going to, this is 22, 23, 24, 25. And this is stitch 46. And we're going to place this marker, we're going to move it to stitch 45. And I'm going to double check that I have that I have these correct. All right, so this was stitch 1, we're going to count around. There's stitch 45 and there's stitch 46. For row 43, we're going to continue to crochet in a continuous around from where we finished. Okay, so we just finished row 42. We're going to work this all the way over in the next 21 stitches. Okay, so there's our 21. Okay, we have completed the 21 stitches. So we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch where the marker was, and we're going to come straight across to this marker. And we are going to single crochet, pull up a loop, and then we're just going to finish that single crochet, and then we are going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. So now we have split the bone. All right, so you can see we're back to 2 sections. So for row 44, so that was row 43, and we're just working this one side first, okay? Remember that this now is its own. We're gonna work that separately. So we're just gonna work this one side. We're just gonna single crochet around for row 44. I'm gonna put a stitch marker right there to mark where our new beginning is, and we're gonna crochet around. So we should have 24 stitches that we're working with. If you don't have 24, you probably got off on your count over here. I am done with row 44. So now we're gonna start doing our decreases to shape the top part of the bone on this side. So for row 45, we're going to single crochet in the next stitch, and we're going to do a decrease, single crochet in 2, and then a decrease. Here on our last decrease for this round. And we are going to single crochet in the last stitch, and that should put you down to 18 stitches. I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to add some filling because our last filling is clear down here, so we're like another finger length away from where the last filling was. So we're going to go ahead and fill this, and I'm going to fill it from this side. It's just a little wider now that we've done our decreases. And again, we're doing a really really full fill on this to keep this nice and firm. I want to push that down in there so that it's nice and stiff. Okay. Add a little bit more. So we want to fill up this part where we just did all of our increases. Go. Very good. All right. And we're just going to stick a little bit more on this side since we're working on filling this one up. And we're going to be moving to row 46, and we're going to be doing a single crochet and then a decrease, and we're going to repeat that all the way around. So we're going to be going from 18 down to 12 stitches. Single crochet, place a marker, and then we have a decrease. Why it looks squeaks like that? Maybe somebody else knows. Just when it works really tight stitches. Right, and then we're gonna work a single crochet and a decrease. And we're gonna repeat that to the end of the round. And we're gonna do our last decrease at the end of row 46. And these stitches are all very close together. We're getting it to the very end of this. So we are now down to 12 stitches. So you can see that's not a very big hole right there. So in row 47, we're going to single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So we're going to maintain the 12 stitches. In our last stitch, there we go. So we should have 12 stitches on row 47. And now we are done with the crochet part of this cup. So we're going to go ahead and just cut somewhat of a little bit of a long tail there. And then we will slip stitch into the first stitch and then finish it off. So you can see that that evens everything up. Now the last thing that we have to do on this stitch is we just have to finish filling this up, and then we're going to use a needle and we're going to close this. Since we want this to be firmly stuffed, we do want to work this stuffing down in there, even though it seems like, oh, that's already full. Now I can fit a little bit more than what you think. So that's where it should be, and that's nice and firm. That's how we want it. Right. So we're going to use our needle and we're going to finish off this hole. So we're going to work back and forth along these stitches, and then we will pull everything tight. So this doesn't need to be super tight coming through here. I'm just really trying to get basically just weaving it in and out so that I have some leverage to pull. So when I pull, see, it'll pull the stitches with it. So we're just going to continue working around our last row of stitching. And try not to get too into the filling. So we don't want the filling on the outside. We want that filling to stay inside of the crocheted stitches. Back to the beginning here. One more, and then I'm going to pull. So now you can see I basically created a magic circle, and I just pulled all of the stitching, all the stitches tight. So just like we did at the beginning with our magic circle, and we pulled on the string and it tightened everything down. Now we've created that same scenario at the top. Okay, so I'm going to pull this real tight because I want that to be as closed as possible, and then I'm going to weave my needle in a little bit here just to make sure that this is nice and tight and that it's not gonna wiggle its way out, because I don't want it to loosen up again. Okay, so there we go. Pull that needle through there, and you can go a couple of times if you want to. It's really a matter of personal preference. And now the last thing that I do is I usually will just stick it down wherever the hole is, where it is right now. I'm gonna poke it in there, and I'm gonna just poke it through. There we go. So basically I'm just weaving my yarn down inside by doing this, and I'm gonna pull on this a little bit, and then I'm gonna cut this. And now when I stretch that back out, it sucks the yarn back inside of it. So that side is completely done now. Completely finished. And now we're going to go work on the second cup, okay? So we are going back to row 42. We're gonna continue to crochet in continuous rounds, just like we've been doing. And we're going to pull our yarn out here. We're going to put a slip stitch on our hook, okay? Like this. So that would be like our one loop that was already on there. And then we're going to insert this into where the stitch marker was, right here. And we're going to pull up a loop. So get that out of the way. Pull up a loop, and then we're going to complete a single crochet. See that? All right, and now we are going to work around this row. And we are crocheting around to the beginning. No increases or decreases in this row. This is our last stitch, stitch 24, so that we are right on the count for our row. And we're back to the beginning, which I should have put a marker in, but I could tell that that was the beginning because it was the only stitch sticking up. So here's where we're at after we've created row 43 on our second cup, okay? Now we're gonna move on to row 44, and we're gonna just single crochet in each stitch around. Okay, we are last stitch of row 44. I have 24 stitches in this row. We are gonna go on to row 45, and this is gonna be a decrease row. So we are going to single crochet in the next stitch, and then we're gonna do a decrease. Put my marker back in stitch 1. We are going to do 2 single crochets, and then we're going to do another decrease, and we're going to repeat that 2 single crochets, decrease to the end of the round. Okay, we are to our last decrease. And then we are going to single crochet into the last stitch. And we should have 18 stitches left. See kind of where you're at here. Okay. Row 46, we are going to do a single crochet and then a decrease, repeat all the way around. We'll be going from 18 down to 12 stitches. Okay, we are to our last decrease. And we should be down to 12 stitches. You can go ahead and count that. And then we're going to move on to row 47. And this is just going to be a single crochet around. You're going to maintain 12 stitches. And we are to our last stitch. Go. And I'm going to remove this and I'm going to slip stitch into that first stitch just to give it a nicer looking finish. And then I'm going to trim this off with a bit of a long tail. So again, we're going to do the same thing that we did last time. We're going to stuff this full and then we're going to sew the top shut so that it looks just like this one. So let's go ahead and get our stuffing. We don't need a ton. We're just going to fill up the end of this. That's not quite as full as I would like it to be. So I'm going to add just a little bit more. I would like this to be equally as firm as the other side here. Just need a little touch more. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, that. All right. And that should do it. Okay. So now we are going to take our needle and we're going to sew around just like we did with the other one. We're going to weave back and forth and we're basically going to create another magic loop that we can pull tight and close the top of this cup that we've created here. So I'm just going to weave this in and out. And try and hold back this stuffing because I don't want that to be coming out of the stitches. And back through here. All right, I think we're right back at the beginning. So we should be able to pull this and have it get all tight. Yep, there we go. And now we're going to run this through the stitches here to just kind of hold this in place. Make sure that it doesn't come loose. There you go. Very nice. All right. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to weave this down through. I'm literally just going to poke the needle through the cup that we made and through the top of the bone, packed in there, which is exactly what we wanted. All right, so I'm going to pull that and then I'm just going to give it a little bit of a tug to pull that just a little bit tight. Trim this off close, but don't cut the stitches. And then I'm going to pull that back out and it just sucks that yarn right back in there. No weaving in, no extra finishing, just like that. Gosh, it turned out so perfect. I can't even believe it. All right, there we go. Okay, so I know this was a little more technical than some of the other stuff that we've done together up to this point. If you have questions or you were confused by anything, please drop down in the comments and let me know and I will try to explain. Again, the link for this pattern will be in the description for Dreamee Crochet, who designed this great amigurumi dog bone. And I'm gonna go give it to my dog, see if he's excited this time as he was the last time that I made one of these for him. He absolutely loves them. They're just the perfect size for his little tiny Yorkie mouth, and it's really lightweight, but he can get his teeth in there and he just loves it. Plus anything I give him, he's like, a gift. He thinks it's a gift. He must be his love language is gifts. So anyway, all right, so if you enjoyed this tutorial, this project with me, please hit that subscribe button, like this video, and don't forget to turn on notifications so that you get notified every time I upload a new video or a new project for us to work on together. And that's all I have for you today. So until next time, happy stitching.